Welcome to the E-Star Resources update. I'd now like to hand you over to Chris van Beek, Technical Director. Good morning to you, sir.
Good day, everybody, and thanks for the brief introduction. So my name is Chris van Wijk. I'm the Technical Director of E-Star Resources, and I'd just like to give you a quick, brief technical update as to what our strategy is and why we like Kazakhstan. I want to start by telling you a little bit about myself. I'm Zimbabwean born, but moved to Australia in the early 2000s and studied at the University of Western Australia. I'm a geologist by background. I got 20 years of experience, with around half of that in copper exploration, and have held a number of senior positions with big companies, beginning with BHP and culminating with First Quantum and Fortescue before moving into the junior arena, where I've been helping companies find projects and progress their exploration strategies. I joined E-Star in early 2024, at first on a part-time basis, coinciding with us getting into the BHP Explore program, where we got a grant of $500,000, which has really been what's enabled us to build up our exploration strategy and data sets that underpin that in Kazakhstan. And my aim with E-Star is to help the company to build up a portfolio of projects organically, starting at a low cost and be able to build those over time. The company is running with three strategies. The VMS strategy was very much in place at the time at which I joined, and VMSs are a smaller style of copper deposit, but that's very much a manageable strategy for a small exploration company such as E-Star. We put out a maiden JORC resource of 20 million tons at 1% copper, so really good size of deposit and good grade, and that's something that we'll keep chipping away at over the short to medium term. The second strategy is a copper porphyry strategy, which was really born out of the success in getting into the BHP Explore program, which came with $500,000 of grant money. That enabled us to get to buy and generate the data sets that effectively cover the whole of eastern Kazakhstan, the kind of area that I'm showing in the map on the left. We've got ASTA coverage, we've got geological mapping, we've now got magnetics and gravity over that whole area. And so we're really in a good position to start generating our own targets. And that's going to be the foundation for the organic growth in E-Star over the next couple of years. And the third strategy is sediment-hosted copper, which we generated a number of targets with GE Tech covering the Teniz and the Chu-Sarysu basins in Kazakhstan. And I'll talk a little bit more about that style of deposit in the slides to come. So the question we often get asked is, why is E-Star going after tier one deposits? Is this something really that you can handle, and what is the reasoning behind it? And I think when you look at these graphs, the reasoning becomes pretty simple. The porphyry deposits average over 1 billion tons of ore. They're very long life assets. In the case of Kazakhstan, they're quite low cost assets. So two of the examples in Kazakhstan, Boshakol and Aktagai, despite being very low grade at 0.3, 0.4% copper, are in the lowest quartile of the cost curve globally for copper deposits. So they are an attractive deposit for majors, and that informed part of the strategy. Sediment-hosted copper is likewise part of the strategy. These are typically very large deposits. The grade profile is a lot better than porphyries, and they have some other attractive exploration attributes that I'll talk to in the coming slides. I've worked on both of these deposit styles, and so I know them well, so that plays to my skill set. And Kazakhstan is fertile and prospective for both of these deposit types as well. And so that's part of the reason that we're in Kazakhstan. And the third, obviously, VMS is much smaller size, but typically high grade as well. So where are we exploring? The map on the left tells the story. The blue arcs, it's part of the Balkhash-Chuili arc. We have predominantly focused on the area to the north of Lake Balkhash up to this point, and we've generated a number of targets there. Investors would have seen that we've picked up 2 licenses, which we've run soil geochemistry over in this season, and we're looking to add to that portfolio over time as we go. The exploration thesis in Kazakhstan was that there are a number of lithocaps that outcrop that you can sort of see, you can detect them using satellite imagery. Most of those haven't had any real work done since the early 1990s when the Soviet Union broke apart. And so the thesis here was really to go in and test those lithocaps using modern geochemistry and techniques like TerraSpec, which weren't around in the 1990s. So the big advent since then has been ICP-MS. This is an assay technique which was really revolutionary in lowering the detection limit of a number of the pathfinder elements which we see in the lithocaps. In the years that have gone by, there's been a lot of research on these deposit styles as well, because they are the major source of the world's copper at the moment. And the zonation of both the mineral species and the metal zonation within lithocaps is a lot better understood than it was in the 1990s. So now when we run these soil geochem programs over the lithocaps, we can infer as to the depth of the target as to whether we can successfully explore those lithocaps or not. This has been done in South America over the intervening period, and several discoveries have been made. So I'm reasonably confident that discoveries will be made in Kazakhstan using exactly the same methodology. And why do we explore for sediment-hosted copper? Why are these an attractive deposit style? Well, typically these deposits have extremely large footprints. I'm showing all of these deposits are to scale. The big one in Kazakhstan is Kazakh up in the top right corner, which has got 22 million tons of contained copper. And also up in the top right corner is a well-known porphyry example in Alaska called Pebble, which has 35 million tons of copper. The difference here is that these deposits, the sed-hosted copper deposits, are typically formed in sedimentary basins, and so they're often flat-lying or close to horizontal, whereas porphyries are more of a pipe-like shape and are vertical. And so your footprint of these deposits is really a lot bigger. They're also often amenable to open pit mining, which is quite favorable for costs. And they don't typically carry a lot of nasties like arsenic, which is often the case with porphyries or epithermal gold deposits that you would find associated with those intrusions. And lastly, grade is king when it comes to deposits. For the most part, these typically have much higher grades than porphyry deposits. So they're long life, they're big assets, they're somewhat easier to explore because of the size of them relative to porphyries. They're just a very attractive deposit style to explore for. Again, reiterating those points, but pointing out that Kazakhstan has two enormous basins that we believe are fertile for sediment-hosted copper deposits. The big example that tells you that these basins are working is Kazakh, which has been in production for close to 100 years and has somewhere in the region of 22 million tons of contained copper. All of the majors are in here looking for sediment-hosted copper deposits. Rio Tinto has a very large land position in the Chusari-Su Basin, which is the southern basin, and First Quantum has taken up ground in that basin as well. But importantly for us, the two basins comprise an area of 175,000 square kilometers, which is roughly twice the size of Ireland. And so that gives us a lot of area to go and play in. And like I said, this strategy, picking up these early stage opportunities, is really about organic growth for East Star over the next couple of years. The last question is often why Kazakhstan? And to give you the company line, this is a country where there is an existing mining industry. They're a major producer, the 11th largest for copper, number one for uranium, and they would probably be in the top 10 or at least 20 for gold. They've got multiple top tier deposits in both gold and copper in operation. Glencore's been there for a number of years. The two of the porphyry deposits are in the lowest quartile of operating costs for copper porphyries in the world. And they've signed a number of bilateral investment treaties with Europe, in particular in the UK, which allow a lot of the goods to go tariff-free into the EU. And finally, it's a critical transport route between China and Europe, with goods taking a third of the time if they go through Kazakhstan than they would if they go on any of the seaborne routes. So it really is a good place to be, but geologists don't usually start by focusing on those things. So I've got my own version of this, and that's why did I end up in Kazakhstan? And the reasons really begin with fertility and prospectivity. It's one of the best places in the world to explore. And, you know, there aren't too many other countries where you've got the occurrence of multiple tier one, you know, world-class gold and copper assets all in the same place across a number of styles. So the geology of Kazakhstan really is pretty special. Secondly, you know, the geology is special in a lot of places. It is in Chile, it's good in Zambia, it's good in the Congo, it's good in Australia, you know, but most of those places you can't actually go and pick up open ground or projects where you've got geophysical, geochemical and you know, satellite anomalies. In Kazakhstan, you can. So we have the opportunity to grow our business organically, you know, with a pretty low cost. The next part is around the regulatory framework. You know, a lot of those countries that I mentioned, Zambia, they've flip-flopped on taxes over the years. The Congo, they've been asset expropriations. Chile, you've got big community protests. Kazakhstan, you really have none of those things. It's an area where you've actually got an improving regulatory environment and already a big mining industry to fall back on. My last role was in West Africa, and obviously that's gone south in terms of terrorism and personal risk. There's none of that in Kazakhstan. It's generally a very safe place to operate, very low crime rates, and no terrorists at this point in time. And the last point is that really there's easy access to all of the service providers that you'd need. There are world-class labs. ALS has got a big facility there that we've used. There are multiple drilling companies with drill rigs, you know, so there's capacity. So it's really quite easy from that point of view compared to a lot of the other countries. And I guess the last box I've modified a little bit, you know, beginning with the end in mind, that when we do find the next tier one deposit, there are going to be people around that we can sell it to. So those are the reasons why I like Kazakhstan and why we are doing what we're doing in terms of exploration. Thanks for listening.
Chris, thank you very much for the update. On behalf of the management team of V-Star Resources PLC, we'd like to thank you for watching the presentation.